afternoon. My name is Chris Piezinski. I'm one of the lighthouse interpreters here at the Cape Henry Lighthouse here at Fort Story, Virginia. Our STEM program came about during what we offer here on top of the dune as dune talks, generally history-oriented talks related to the Cape Henry Lighthouse and the surrounding historic area. We noticed that there were a lot of questions from the guests and the visitors dealing with scientific aspects of both the lighthouse, the fort, oceanography, weather, and everything STEM related in general. So we decided to integrate STEM or STEM presentations into what we offer as part of our education program here at the Lighthouse. But of course, since most of us are primarily historians, we have very little background in many of the STEM areas. So what we did was we looked at where out in the community could we find the experts.
This instrument
on
is
this.
an anemometer.
So we went to the Ocean Lakes High School
wind
Math and
speed.
Science Academy and asked them to get some of their best and brightest students to put 4 programs for us together. Mathematics, geology, weather, and optics. All of those programs STEM-oriented and related to the lighthouse or with direct application on the lighthouse. And the programs were designed to be short presentations, interactive, where the guests can actually touch rocks, measure angles, take temperature, measure wind speed, and so on, in order to give them a little bit more STEM or scientific and mathematics understanding of how the lighthouse actually works or how these applications apply to the lighthouse. And the lighthouse is one of the most unique structures in that its very existence depends on a lot of STEM-oriented programs or STEM-oriented technology.
Hello, and welcome to the Cape Henry Lighthouse. My name is Joe. I am a Preservation Virginia historic interpreter here at the old Cape Henry Lighthouse. I want to take a little bit of your time and talk about our STEM series, which focuses on geology, weather. As you can see, it's a beautiful day, and nautical things out in the bay. So today we're going to talk about geology and a little bit of geography, because it's kind of important to know where you are in the world, and you are at Cape Henry, Virginia. So to first start about geology, so you're sitting on a 50-foot sand dune, and on this 50-foot sand dune is a lighthouse. And this lighthouse is made of 2 different sandstones. And the reason they pick sandstone as a, building material is because it's so soft. It's easy to cut with your hand tools. So the foundation of the lighthouse is from the Aquia Creek. It's an Aquia Creek sandstone, and it's very soft material. You can see the heavy erosion that has occurred at the base of the lighthouse. And you are looking about half of the foundation of the lighthouse. So that's 8 to 10 feet of exposed foundation, and there's another 10 to 12 feet below it. So it's a very soft material. You can cut it very easily, but it erodes heavily over time. And what's really interesting is that this was all that was originally designed for this lighthouse, was this 10 feet of sandstone. So if this is all that was actually built, we might not have a lighthouse here anymore. So there's another 10 to 12 feet because, once again, you're on a 50-foot sand dune. So there really is no substrate besides sand. And that's important because if you think about this area, you think about the beach, Virginia Beach, most of it was sand dunes. And most of those sand dunes have eroded. So it's basically all sand beneath us. There's another substrate that's even farther below us called marl, and that is fossilized crustaceans. So millions of years of fish fossils are down there. That's a really hard material. However, most things like this lighthouse aren't deep enough and dug deep enough to hit that marl. So they don't have a solid foundation. And when you actually go in the lighthouse, you're actually going to see where it's settled a little differently depending on where it is. And that's just because of the substrate below it. So that is Aquia Creek sandstone. The red is another sedimentary rock. It is Rappahannock red sandstone. And so this is a little bit tougher, a little bit harder rock. As you can see, it has eroded much less. So, and that is because it was always meant to be exposed. Unlike the Aquia Creek sandstone, which was meant to be covered, this Rappahannock red was supposed to be exposed to the elements. So they wanted a harder sandstone, but it's a little bit harder to cut. And like I said, you're on a 50-foot sand dune, and supporting that 50-foot sand dune is a retaining wall. And that is made of this gneiss metamorphic rock. It's even tougher, it's an even harder rock. And that kind of keeps the sand dune in place so it doesn't erode any more than it already has. You also notice around the area there are plenty of foliage. There's around here, and that's to really keep that sandstone and sand in place so it doesn't go anywhere. To talk a little bit about the bay and where you are. So you're at Cape Henry. Our absolute location is 36 degrees latitude and 76 degrees longitude. Okay. Our relative location is we're at the southern tip of the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. On the other side of the bay, the northern tip of the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, we have Cape Charles, Virginia. There's a lighthouse over there that's actually the brother of this lighthouse. The bay itself was formed about 35 million years ago by a bolide impact. And for you guys that don't know what a bolide impact is, it's a meteor. It's a giant meteor striking the Earth. And so that meteor actually hit the Chesapeake Bay area, and that caused this unique bay formation that we have now. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Virginia, where you guys are from, but all of our rivers are pretty much watersheds of the Chesapeake Bay. So everything flows into the Chesapeake Bay. So we have 3 main peninsulas and we have 4 main rivers. So to talk a little about geography, the first thing is our northern neck peninsula, and that is separated by the Potomac and the Rappahannock River. On the other side of the Potomac is Washington, D.C., but everything below that is Virginia. Between the Rappahannock and the York River is the middle peninsula, and between the York and the James is the peninsula. I don't know the naming system, that's just what we have. So what's interesting about these rivers is that they go very far into the western part of the state, and they all flow into the Chesapeake. Going back to that crater, that impact that bolide impact made, you'll notice when you look at a map, all of the rivers flow south into the bay, except 2, and that is the York and the James River. And what they do is they make a quick northern upturn right at the mouth of it, and they go towards the bay. So they're actually southern and then go north right at the end of the bay, which is a little unique. And that's because when that meteor hit the Earth, it caused a very large divot, a large hole really, and all of the water rushed to fill that hole. That was the new lowest spot in the area, and so that water rushed from Virginia to fill that hole. And so that's how the bay formed, and that's why you're here. So geographically, like I said, you're at 36 degrees latitude and 76 degrees longitude. You are at pretty much the easternmost portion of Virginia. And Virginia has 3 main geographical areas, 3 main sections. So we have the Tidewater region, which is where you're at, and it's called the Tidewaters because during the high tide, all this seawater goes all the way up to Richmond. So the Tidewater region actually stops in Richmond. That would be what's called the fall line, the geographic fall line of Virginia. From Richmond to the Appalachian Mountains is called the Piedmont region, and everything from the Blue Ridge and the Allegheny and the Appalachian Mountains is called the Alleghenies. So those are your regions of Virginia. You have 3 main regions, and they actually all wash out to here. So this is the end of Virginia, if you will. So thinking a little bit broader, I know one of you guys is from Detroit. So Virginia is actually called the mother of the states. And the reason it's called mother of the states is because this is the first colony. This is the first area that was settled by the English. And so everything was technically Virginia territory until other states were carved out of it. There's a great quote that I love that I thought about last night. John Locke, the 17th century philosopher, said that in the beginning, all of the world was America. And then William Byrd, a Virginia planter, said in the beginning, all of America was Virginia. So thank you for listening to me. I wanted to touch briefly on the geology of the lighthouse, of where you are, and the geography of the region. Thank you very much.